The first sound was the PA cracking open, not the announcement itself. Just the sound before it, the brief burst of static that told everyone in the building to stop what they were doing and listen. I remember looking up at the clock. 10:17 a.m. Second period had just settled into that quiet middle stretch where students stopped pretending to work and teachers stopped pretending to believe them. Then the voice came through. Teachers, initiate lockdown procedures immediately. No code phrase. No warning tone. No name attached to the voice. Just that sentence. For half a second, no one moved. 26 teenagers stared at me, waiting to see if this was a drill. We'd had 2 that year already. Both announced ahead of time. Both accompanied by emails, schedules, reminders. This wasn't that. I crossed the room and locked the door. The lock clicked louder than it ever had before. I turned off the lights, pulled the shade down over the narrow window, and motioned for the students to move to the back wall. Phones off, I whispered. Silent. Someone asked what was happening. I didn't answer. When the second announcement came, it was worse. Remain in lockdown. This is not a drill. The voice was the same. Slightly hoarse. Like someone who had just finished running upstairs. I'd worked at Jefferson High for 12 years. I knew every administrator's voice. I knew the secretaries, the custodians, the principal, even the IT guy who sometimes helped with assemblies. This voice wasn't any of them. The students settled into the practiced crouch along the wall. Backpacks clutched to chests. Knees pulled in. A few were shaking, trying to hide it. I checked my phone. No alerts. No texts. The staff group chat was dead silent. Usually during a drill, someone would crack a joke. Someone would ask if it was real. Someone would complain. This time, nothing. 10 minutes passed. The room smelled like dust and deodorant and panic. The air felt thick, like the building itself was holding its breath. That's when the door handle turned. Not violently. Not like someone trying to break in. Just a slow, deliberate twist, as if the person on the other side expected it to open. I moved without thinking, stepping in front of the door, pressing my back against it. My heart was loud enough that I was sure the students could hear it. The handle stopped. Then it turned again. Slower this time. Testing. Someone in the back of the room whimpered. I didn't move. I didn't speak. The handle released. Footsteps moved down the hallway. Unhurried. Heavy enough to be an adult, but not running. A few seconds later, another announcement came over the PA. Teachers, if you are hearing this, do not open your doors. It didn't sound official. It sounded careful. Like the person speaking was choosing their words as they went. We are experiencing an issue with the system. Remain where you are. No mention of police. No mention of a threat. No reassurance. Just silence after that. I checked the clock again. 10:34 a.m. I tried texting the main office. The message showed as sent, but never delivered. A student raised her hand like we were still in class. I shook my head. She lowered it, embarrassed, then mouthed, "Is someone inside the school?" I didn't know what to tell her. At 10:49, we heard shouting from somewhere far down the hall. Muffled. Echoing through the building. It was impossible to make out words, just the cadence of someone raising their voice. Then a loud bang. Not a gunshot. Not sharp enough. More like a door slamming into a wall. The students flinched as one. Another bang followed. Closer this time. I held up my hand, signaling them to stay still. My palms were slick with sweat. My phone buzzed in my pocket and I nearly jumped out of my skin. It was a text from an unknown number. "Are you in 112? That was my room number. I didn't respond. Another buzz. "Do not open your door." I stared at the screen, my mind racing through possibilities. Police? Administration? A glitch? Then another text. "He's checking rooms." I typed back before I could stop myself. "Who is this?" The message didn't go through. At 11:02, the fire alarm chirped once. Not fully. Just a brief, broken sound, like the system had been interrupted mid-signal. The PA crackled again. "This announcement is for staff only," the voice said. "If you have visual contact with anyone in the hallway, report it immediately." Visual contact with who? No one answered. At some point, the students started crying quietly. One of the boys whispered that his mom was calling him over and over. Another said his phone had lost signal entirely. I kept my back against the door and watched the clock inch forward. At 11:27, there were footsteps again. This time they stopped right outside my room. The handle didn't move. Instead, a voice spoke through the door. "Hello." It was calm. Middle-aged. "I know you're in there," the voice said. "We need to check your room." I didn't respond. "I'm with the district," he continued. "There's been a malfunction. We need to make sure everyone's accounted for." I recognized that tone. The one adults use when they want compliance without resistance. The one that sounds reasonable enough to doubt your own fear. I asked him to identify himself. There was a pause. "I don't have time for that," he said. "Open the door." The handle rattled once. Harder this time. "No," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. Silence followed. Then footsteps moved away. The PA came on again almost immediately. "Attention staff," the voice said louder now. "Do not engage with anyone requesting entry. Law enforcement has not arrived." That sentence stuck with me. Has not arrived. As if they were expected. As if they were late. At 12:03 p.m., sirens finally reached us. Distant at first, then closer. The sound of multiple vehicles pulling into the lot. The relief in the room was almost physical. Students sagged against the wall. Someone laughed once, hysterically, then covered their mouth. Police cleared the building room by room. Real announcements this time. Names. Badge numbers. Commands that sounded rehearsed and solid. When they opened my door, the hallway was empty. No signs of struggle. No damage. They escorted us outside. Parents were already gathering beyond the barricades, faces pale, phones held up like shields. In the aftermath, we were told very little. The official statement said a systems error triggered an unauthorized lockdown announcement. There was no threat. No intruder. No danger. The door handle incident was chalked up to staff movement during confusion. The texts from the unknown number were never acknowledged. When I asked about the voice, the principal told me the PA system had been accessed remotely due to a software fault. I asked why the voice told us law enforcement hadn't arrived. He said that wasn't part of the official log. A week later, a technician came to my room to check the lock. He said it had engaged properly. No signs of tampering. Before he left, he asked me a strange question. "Did anyone try to let you out?" I asked what he meant. He hesitated, then said, "We found several doors unlocked during the lockdown. From the inside." No one ever explained how that happened. The security footage from the hallway outside my room was corrupted between 10:41 and 11:15 a.m. No video. No audio. The phone number that texted me didn't belong to the district or the police. It wasn't spoofed, according to the carrier. It simply didn't exist. Every year since, we still practice lockdown drills. They use the pre-recorded message again. Come. Flat. Familiar. But every time the PA crackles before it plays, the room goes quiet in a way drills can't teach. And every once in a while, during a real announcement, I swear I hear that other voice underneath the official one, waiting to be let in. I didn't know the room existed until the day we were told to hide in it. I was a junior then. Westbrook High. Built in the late 1960s, expanded in pieces over decades. Nothing lined up the way it should. Hallways narrowed unexpectedly. Stairwells dead-ended. Doors opened into walls that didn't match the building map. Teachers joked that the place had been designed by committee. Students joked it was haunted. It wasn't haunted. It was worse than that. The lockdown started during fourth period chemistry. We were halfway through a worksheet nobody was doing when the lights flickered and the PA clicked on. There was no announcement at first. Just breathing. Not loud. Not exaggerated. Just the unmistakable sound of someone too close to the microphone. Then a voice said, "Lockdown? Now." That was it. Our teacher, Mr. Hargreave, froze for a beat too long. Then he moved fast, locked the door, killed the lights, yanked the shades down so hard the cord snapped loose. "Back wall," he whispered. "Phones off. Shoes off if you can." We did what we were trained to do. Sat shoulder to shoulder. Listened to our own breathing get louder. The official announcement came a few seconds later, layered over static. Teachers and students, initiate lockdown procedures immediately. This is not a drill. I remember thinking how late it sounded. Like the system was catching up to something already happening. We stayed there for maybe 10 minutes before the knock. It wasn't aggressive. It wasn't scared. 3 firm taps on the door. Mr. Hargreave didn't move. Neither did we. A voice spoke from the other side. Young, come. Chemistry class? You need to move. No badge tap. No radio chatter. No announcement. Mr. Hargreave shook his head slowly, warning us not to react. The voice continued. That hallway isn't secure. There's a relocation in progress. Open the door. Someone near me started crying silently. The kind where your shoulders shake but no sound comes out. Mr. Hargreave raised his voice just enough to be heard. Identify yourself. There was a pause. Guidance office, the voice said. We're moving groups to safer rooms. That didn't make sense. Guidance was on the first floor. We were on the third. Mr. Hargreave didn't answer. The voice sighed like we were inconveniencing it. Fine, it said. Stay there. Footsteps moved away. 10 minutes later, the PA came back on. Attention. Certain classrooms will be temporarily relocated. Follow staff instructions. No list. No directions. No explanation. Mr. Hargreave checked his phone. No signal. No alerts. Then his classroom phone rang. He flinched like it had shouted. He picked it up slowly, keeping his voice low. Yes. I couldn't hear the reply, but I saw his face change. Not panic. Confusion. He hung up and turned to us. They want us to move, he whispered. They're saying our room is on the wrong list. Someone asked what list. He didn't answer. He cracked the door just enough to look out. The hallway was empty. Too empty. Lockdown empty meant closed doors, lights off, silence, but this was different. It felt staged. Stay together, he said. No talking. We filed out. That's when we saw the signs. Handwritten arrows taped to lockers. Black marker. Thick lines. This way. They hadn't been there before. I was sure of it. We followed them down a side hallway I'd never used. Past storage closets. Past a stairwell door marked No Access. The arrows continued anyway. At the end of the hall was a door labeled 214. It didn't make sense. Third floor rooms ended at 198. Everyone knew that. Mr. Hargreave hesitated. The door was already open. Inside, the room looked like any other classroom. Desks, whiteboard, a teacher's desk with old coffee rings, but something felt wrong immediately. No windows. Schools don't build classrooms without windows. Even interior rooms have borrowed light panels or glass blocks. This one had nothing. The lights were already on. Sit, Mr. Hargreave said, uncertain now. Same procedure. We crowded along the wall again. The door closed behind us. It locked automatically. That's when we noticed the other students. There were 6 of them already sitting along the opposite wall. Different ages. Different clothes. No backpacks. One girl was wearing a hoodie with our school logo from at least 10 years ago. I recognized it because my older brother had one just like it. Nobody spoke. Minutes passed. Or maybe longer. There was no clock. The PA crackled faintly, but nothing came through. I pulled my phone out despite the rules. Still no signal. One of the other students, the ones who were already there, stood up. Which class are you from? He asked us. No one answered. He nodded like he'd expected that. They send people here when they don't know where else to put them, he said. Mr. Hargreave stepped forward. Who are you? The boy shrugged. Room 214. That's not... Mr. Hargreave stopped himself. On the map, the boy finished. The door handle rattled. Not violently. Just someone checking it. A voice came from the hallway. Room check. Mr. Hargreave moved to the door. Who is that? No answer. The handle turned again. Stopped. One of the other students, the girl with the old hoodie, started shaking her head. Don't, she whispered. If you open it, they'll move you again. Move us where? Someone asked. She didn't respond. The lights flickered. The boy from 214 spoke again. They clear the building in layers. Some rooms don't count. What do you mean don't count? I asked. He looked at me like I'd missed something obvious. They don't show up right on the system, he said. That's why we end up here. The PA finally came back on louder now. Official sounding. Law enforcement is on site. Remain in lockdown until escorted. Relief rippled through the room. Then another voice cut in. Same breathing as before. Do not leave room 214. The announcement cut off mid-sentence. We all stared at the speaker in the ceiling. Mr. Hargreave reached for the door. The boy from 214 grabbed his arm. "Wait," he said. "They haven't cleared us yet." "How do you know?" Mr. Hargreave snapped. "Because they never do." Footsteps approached outside. Multiple pairs. Radios crackling. A police voice called out, "Chemistry class, identify." Mr. Hargreave answered immediately. "We're in a classroom marked 214. Silence. Then, repeat that. Room 214. Another pause. "There is number 214 on this floor," the officer said. "That's where we are." Footsteps moved closer. The door was tested. "It's locked," someone said. The handle rattled harder this time. "Open it," the officer said. Mr. Hargreave looked at the students from the other side of the room. They all shook their heads. "If you open it," the boy said quietly, "we won't be here anymore." The door unlocked on its own. The lights went out. For a moment there was nothing. No sound. No breath. Then the lights came back on. The room was empty except for us. No extra students. No desks on the other side. No old hoodie. The door stood open to a normal hallway. Bright. Loud. Safe. Police escorted us out. Later, when attendance was taken, everyone from my class was accounted for. No one reported missing. When I asked Mr. Hargreave about room 214, he said he didn't remember going there. The arrows on the lockers were gone. Facilities checked the blueprints. There was no such room. But weeks later, during another drill, I saw a handwritten sign taped to a locker near the stairwell. "This way." It pointed toward a door that wasn't there anymore. And when the PA crackles now before any announcement plays, I still hear breathing, waiting to see who needs to be moved next. I worked security for the district. It wasn't a glamorous job. Mostly monitoring cameras, checking IDs, reporting broken locks. But during lockdowns, my role suddenly became critical. Eyes and ears on the unseen. The day started normal. I arrived at the security office at 7:45 a.m., logged into all the camera systems, checked the locks, tested the PA. Westbrook High had been upgraded the year before with motion sensors, badge access doors, and an elaborate intercom network. A drill was scheduled for Thursday morning. I had no idea Thursday would arrive 2 hours early. At 10:42 a.m. the cameras flickered. A warning popped up on my screen. Lockdown alert initiated. Location, multiple zones. System status, unverified. I froze. That wasn't scheduled. The message was automatic, system generated, not manual. The PA clicked, then a voice came over, breathless, firm, but unfamiliar. "Teachers, locked down immediately. This is not a drill." I went straight to my radio. Checked every frequency. Staff were silent. Phones weren't getting through. Only one door sensor showed movement. Room 3B. That was a second-floor classroom near the old wing. The lights were on. The cameras didn't lie. The teacher stood at the door, hands pressed to the frame as if holding back a tidal wave. No students visible. The handle rattled from the outside repeatedly. Slow. Methodical. I radioed dispatch. Officer's voice replied, "Copy. Moving to the wing. Hold your observation." I watched the teacher step away from the door. No one was there. The handle rattled again. Nothing. No bodies, no one visible on any of the sensors. I sent a maintenance team to check for false triggers, but the system kept reporting a presence in that room. Motion sensors and video were at odds. The door lock reported it was engaged. Yet the handle kept turning. Minutes passed. I zoomed in on the video feed. Something wasn't right. The teacher, substitute I later learned, was pacing the room now, moving slowly, uncertain. Then she stopped and turned toward the wall. Nothing was there. The door rattled again. I called her directly via intercom. No answer. I sent an officer to check the hallway. Camera feed followed him. He reached the door. He knocked. No response. The teacher was nowhere to be seen. I was watching in disbelief as the camera picked up her hands leaving the frame. Then the lights flickered. When they came back, she was sitting on the floor, alone. Another officer arrived to clear the classroom. When they opened the door, no signs of forced entry. No students. No teacher. Nothing unusual to the eye. Yet the logs confirmed someone had been in the room continuously for the past 20 minutes. I tried to contact the office again. No signal. Not a glitch. Phones weren't receiving. Even my pager stayed silent. Then came the whispers. Low, just beyond audible. From room 3B's intercom. Repeatedly saying, "We see you." The officers dismissed it. System anomaly. Couldn't be verified. I stayed glued to the cameras. A janitor walked past room 3B. He swore he saw someone inside. Just standing. Watching. He claimed he knocked. No one responded. Hours later, after police had cleared the building, the room was empty. Teacher accounted for, no students missing, nothing misplaced. The PA system logs showed no manual access. No override. No recorded voice other than the official system messages. I had to write the incident report. I detailed every motion, every irregularity, every sensor reading, every camera anomaly. By the next day, someone erased the footage of room 3B from the system. Corrupted files, they claimed. Nobody questioned it. The technician said it was an isolated glitch. Months passed. Drills continued. Staff joked about room 3B. Students dared each other to peek in when the door was unlocked. I never returned to that wing alone. Even now, when the system flickers or a door rattles unexpectedly, I can't shake the feeling that room 3B is still occupied. By someone or something we never saw. I was hiding under a desk when it started. I don't mean the drills where everyone laughs nervously and teachers tell us to stay calm. I mean real. Heart pounding, lights off, no one moves, don't breathe, lockdown. It began at 9:53 a.m., second floor math class. The PA clicked. Then silence. Then a voice, low and tense. Lockdown. Now. No warning. No tone indicating a drill. Just the words. Mrs. Donahue, our teacher, froze for a heartbeat before grabbing her keys, sliding the deadbolt, and motioning for us to crouch behind the desks. I sank to the floor, knees pressed to my chest, my phone in my pocket buzzing relentlessly with messages I couldn't send. At first, nothing happened. Just the faint hum of the air conditioning. The faint tick of the wall clock. The sound of my own breathing seemed too loud. Then I heard it. Footsteps. Not running. Not hurried. Measured. Deliberate. Outside the classroom door. Mrs. Donahue whispered, "Everyone stay still. Don't answer if they speak." The footsteps paused. The door handle rattled gently like someone testing it. A voice came from the hallway. "Mel, come." Controlled. "Math class, I need you to come with me." Mrs. Donahue didn't respond. None of us did. The handle rattled again. Then soft knocks. 3. Paused. 2. Paused. 1. "Open up," the voice said. I couldn't move. My hands were clammy, my heart pounding. Mrs. Donahue mouthed, "Don't." I stayed down, staring at the scuffed floor. The footsteps moved away, but the door handle kept rattling every so often, like a heartbeat I couldn't escape. Minutes passed, or maybe hours. Time lost meaning. My phone buzzed again. Another message from an unknown number. "Are you in room 207? I was, but I didn't reply. Another buzz. "Do not open your door." My hands shook as I clutched the phone. I wanted to text someone. Anyone. My mom. My dad. But the words refused to form. Then the PA crackled again. Mrs. Donahue winced. "This is not a drill," the voice said. "Remain in lockdown. Law enforcement has been notified." But even as the words played, I heard movement outside. Soft shuffling. Whispers I couldn't make out. The faint smell of disinfectant mixed with something metallic. One of my classmates started to cry silently. Another whispered, "They're in the hallway." Mrs. Donahue shushed them, but her voice was shaky. We stayed like that for nearly an hour. The door handle rattled repeatedly, but no one entered. No one called out, except the PA announcements that alternated between official and unidentifiable voices. Then my phone buzzed again. This time, a message I didn't expect. "They're calling names." I looked around. Nobody else had received it. My classmates whispered, "Who? What do you mean?" I didn't reply. I didn't want to. The door handle rattled harder this time. The sound made my stomach knot. The voice outside murmured something I couldn't understand. Minutes later, another PA announcement. Lockdown lifted. Resume normal schedule. Some students bolted upright. Some ran for the door. I froze. Something in my chest told me not to move. Then another voice, different, came over the PA. Not official. Not recorded. Do not move. That was not me. Screams erupted in classrooms nearby. Some students opened doors. Others stayed put, confused, terrified. Footsteps ran past our door fast this time. Faint, echoing, impossible to identify. Someone laughed. Low, soft, mocking. Police arrived 10 minutes later. They cleared classrooms, instructed students to evacuate. Everyone was accounted for. My parents hugged me outside, relief written across their faces. I tried to tell them about the unknown messages. The footsteps. The voice on the intercom. The door handle that turned itself. They smiled politely. It was just the chaos of a lockdown, they said. But my phone showed the messages timestamped during the lockdown. The numbers didn't exist. The messages came from inside the school's Wi-Fi network. Weeks later, we went back to room 207. Nothing was out of place. The door worked perfectly. No signs of forced entry. No scratches on the lock. Yet every time the PA clicks on now before a drill, I hear it. The subtle breathing, the quiet voice underneath the official announcement. Waiting. Watching. Calling names. I never told anyone else about the whispers I heard in my head that day, not even Mrs. Donahue. Because if you start paying attention, you realize the lockdown never really ends. Even when the doors are open, the lights are on, and everyone else is gone. Room 207 is still calling. It started with a text. I was at work 2 hours into my morning, buried in reports, when my phone buzzed incessantly. My daughter, Emma, had sent me a message. Mom, lockdown. It's quiet. I froze. The office phone was ringing simultaneously. I didn't answer. I didn't know which was worse, the messages or the realization that my daughter was alone in her classroom while the school was on lockdown. I called the school immediately. The lines were busy. Repeatedly. Every time I tried, the calls went straight to voicemail. Another text came from Emma, timestamped seconds later. Someone is in the room next door. I swallowed hard. Next door? That couldn't be right. The lockdown procedures were supposed to keep everyone in place. Teachers were supposed to secure doors. Students were supposed to remain silent. Oh, who is there? I typed. The reply was instant. A student voice. Not staff. I tried to calm myself. Maybe it was another kid moving between rooms, ignoring lockdown rules. But something about the way she typed it, the short, clipped sentences, my stomach twisted. Another text. They're calling names. I stared at the phone. My hands trembled. I wanted to leave immediately to drive to the school, but traffic and the panic of thinking I'd make it worse kept me rooted. The next messages were more fragmented, terrified. Don't answer the door. Keep quiet. Don't move. I called the office again. Still busy. My mind raced. The emergency notifications weren't coming through. No emails. No alerts. Only my daughter texting from inside a building in chaos. I checked the local news app. Nothing. No alerts of a lockdown. No police notifications. The world outside seemed completely normal. The school, however, was not. Minutes stretched into what felt like hours. Emma sent me a final message. They're calling names. Please, hurry. The phone froze. No signal. No reply possible. I was frantic. Finally, sirens in the distance. My heart leaped. Police had arrived. I grabbed my coat and ran out of the office. Traffic slowed as more parents began converging on the school. When I reached the perimeter, barricades were already set up. Officers were directing parents, checking IDs, keeping us behind temporary fences. My legs shook. I tried to push forward to find her. Minutes later, a teacher escorted students out of the building. Emma's class was among them. Her face was pale. Her backpack hung loosely over one shoulder. She was alive. She was safe. She was trembling, clutching her phone. I ran to her. She didn't speak immediately, only buried her face into my chest, shaking. Mom, she whispered, her voice small. No one came into the room. But they were calling names. They knew us. They were inside the school. I tried to soothe her, tell her it was fine. But I could see it in her eyes. She had seen something no parent should ever imagine. Someone or something inside her school walking the halls during lockdown, unaccounted for, calling names. When I demanded to speak with administrators, they offered vague reassurances. A system error triggered an unauthorized lockdown message, they said. No threat was identified. All students accounted for. I asked about the texts. They stared blankly. What texts? I pulled up Emma's phone. Time-stamped messages from numbers that didn't exist, originating from the school's Wi-Fi network. They said it was impossible. They promised to investigate. Weeks passed. Emma returned to school. Classes resumed. Drills continued. The PA system, motion sensors, intercoms, all tested, all functional. But every time the phone buzzed inside the building, every time a lockdown was announced, even as a drill, Emma froze. And I froze too, thinking of those messages. Come out now. Even now, when the school calls with notifications, when they claim all is safe, I check my phone. I can't shake the knowledge that during that lockdown, while police were outside, while teachers tried to manage, someone, or something, was inside the school. Watching. Calling names. Moving unseen. Emma never forgot. I never forgot. And we both know, the lockdown ended. But the presence never did. Because some things in the school remain unaccounted for. And some doors, some rooms, never closed completely.